I have like leftover.
It's all right. How you guys doing today? We are live. Welcome Tuesday night Revolutionary Blackout Socialist MMA. I am here with a friend of the show.
How you guys
Let me
doing
fix
today?
the audio here. Friend of the show, Lucy, also known as Blue Moon Red Wine. Welcome to Revolutionary Blackout.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I've been following Lucy for a while, and I've been doing this series where I just like to invite other leftist, anti-establishment minds, whatever they would like to call themselves. People I always like to have a conversation with. I was on Lucy channel, and she had a idea that was very interesting to me and something I wanted to learn more about. This was like right after we did our General Strike Summit, so we talk about these issues all the time, and people ask me, "What's the solution? Like, what do you guys have any answers?" And the answers is not necessarily easy considering what we're going up against. So my mindset was like, let's flow a lot of different like grassroots tactics that we can do, like a general strike summit, right? And then when you talk about a student loan boycott, student loan strike, whatever you want to call it, that seemed like another alternative that we could do, so we don't have to worry about power, right? So I just want to get your thoughts on why you held that summit, because I think it was an all day event, right? I got Lucy channel in the description. Maybe I should put the video in there as well. But it was a really good informative stream. We had a few Revolutionary Blackout members on there. We had, I think, James and Savvy Savs was on there as well. A lot of great content creators and organizers was there as well. But I want to get Lucy in here. So, what was your mindset behind starting the student loan strike and your channel overall?
Um, well, I think the channel overall, I kind of just started it as a fluke. I was just like feeling like bitching. I had a very bad year, and I don't know why I really did that. I think it was just kind of a spontaneous thing. And then I was surprised that people watched it. Um, honestly, um, the strike, the student loan strike itself, it's nothing new really. It's like an idea that's already out there. But the reason I did that event was because my debt payments were due, and I didn't want to pay. My debt payments were due, and I didn't want to pay. And I know that there's people all around this country that don't want to pay anymore because these loans are extremely predatory. Um, and predatory debt is not really the same as like reasonable debt. I mean, I don't think any debt is really reasonable, but it's two very different things. These debts are kind of created to be unpayable. Um, and I feel like there's a lot of talk out there already in these left YouTube channels about vaccines. A lot of people are talking about vaccine mandates, but uh, for whatever reason, and I don't know why, compared to a few years ago, people aren't really interested in this issue of debt anymore. And I feel like it's really one of the biggest things that kind of brings us down, like on a daily basis, is our debt, our mortgage debt, our student, not just our student debt, our bail debt, credit card debt. We have all kinds of debt. Personally, the kind of debt that I have the most of is student debt, so that's why I approach that topic. But I also think it's important to discuss other kinds of debt, like mortgage debt, credit card debt, bail debt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because that's the way the government has control over us. Like the system has control over us by subjecting us to unreasonable amounts of debt. And people are fighting back against that in different ways. The student debt boycott isn't the only way to fight back against it. There's been like, I don't know if you've seen those strikes by the taxi workers in New York. Um,
I heard about them.
yeah,
What's the details about it? Just to remind us.
so the taxis, they have to buy these medallions that are obscenely expensive, and they're like over $200,000 or something crazy like that. And I think it's interesting because that's the amount of student debt that people have too. They'll have like $75,000 of debt, and that debt quickly blows up to $150,000. Um, and it's almost like these debts are set. um, they're set at a price that's designed to be unpayable. They could, like, these medallions that the city produces, they cost almost nothing to create them. The only purpose of them is to limit the supply of taxi drivers. Um, but they have to pay an obscene amount of money for these medallions, even as like Uber and Lyft and all of these other companies are taking over the market. So it's extremely predatory to make people pay that much just to work, basically, just to
And
have
it
a.
doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense in terms of economics as well. And that's why, if you look at studies show that if you cancel student loan debt, it actually boosts the economy. The reason why is pretty simple, because a lot of capitalists, they're so worried about funneling money to the top, they're not even worried about the societal results of their policy. So how does it make sense to put your most reliable spending block, age around 25 to 45? Isn't that the target, the prime demographic, the prime spending age? How does it make sense for a society to put that group into debt? Like, imagine if you're someone who went to school to be like a doctor or a lawyer, and you hear from these people, you hear how much money they make, and you say, how can you be struggling? And you hear about how much student loans they had to pay. Now they are petite bourgeoisie, but it still helps the economy to have people who went to schools to be lawyers, to be doctors, to be teachers as well, to be able to spend the money that they earned through their profession. But many of them, through the prime of their life, they're not able to buy homes because of student loan debt. They may not be able to start a family because of student loan debt. Doesn't that hurt the economy, capitalists? Why is that something they do not consider? But we, in this new era of a debt economy, medical debt, student loan debt, et cetera, et cetera. So I like the idea of fighting that.
Yeah, and the people that it hurts the most, the student loan debt stuff, is actually like first generation college grads. I don't think people really realize it. For example, if you have someone someone in your family that has money that co-signs your loan, you can get a very like affordable interest rate. You don't have to take out extra loans for your like basic sustenance while you're going to school, and that reduces your debt load. So really, the people that it hurts the most are basically first generation college grads, like second generation college grads, people that are kind of there's always that person in the family that is kind of the launcher, like the person that takes the family ahead. And what people don't realize is that person is held back by the student loan debt. So it doesn't just hurt like petite bourgeoisie or whatever. They're trying to make it sound like that. And it's extremely divisive because they're trying to pit college grads against people that haven't gone to college. Just like with the vaccine mandates, they're trying to pit people that have taken the vaccine against people that have not taken the vaccine. But the reality is that we're in it together. It's not the way they're painting it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was making a point overall about the economy, but make no mistake about it, the problem with the student loans and the new usury economy definitely hurts like disenfranchised communities, like Black Americans. Like, Black women are the highest educated, and Black people take out the most student loan debt because of this, because we don't have generational wealth that can pay for our schools. And since we had to take on the debt in order to educate ourselves, there's not this upward mobility in our society, like you was explaining earlier. When you have a family that will pull ahead because someone will get well educated as a whatever the profession is, right? Instead of them off, now they go into debt. So yeah, you 100% right. I was making a point over on the economy, but you are 100% right, and that's a common strategy that the neoliberal class uses all the time, and in terms of dividing the workers, the divide and conquer, that we all know that they do. It's the oldest strategy that they implement, and they keep going to it because if it's not broken, why fix it, right? So this is another example, and I see the neoliberal class, the Democratic Party, they are aggressive in implementing this strategy when it comes to fighting for student loan debt. Because do you remember the talking point that came from Democratic Party operatives and then politicians repeated, where they say, "Oh, you can't cancel student loans because I don't want to pay for this rich kid having student loan debt canceled." Like, and that doesn't even make sense on face value, because the people who have generational wealth, they're not the ones really going in debt. But do you want to react to that? Because that's one of the many divisive tactics they have to get people to not be pro-worker, and that's going to be an overall theme of this show when we talk about the worker convoy and whether like I'm gonna address the issue like straight up from a neutral point of view. I'm gonna give you guys my what I feel, but I want this to be one like a legit dialogue, not one of those dialogues where people are like, "Damn, you think this cancel?" No, let's talk. I legitimately want to talk it out. That's why I feel about the convoy thing. But Lucy, do you want to react to anything I said before we move on?
Well, I think you're right about the divisive strategy. The thing that they do basically is they'll pit people that are maybe slightly middle class with people that are not middle class, right? So they'll say something like, these I'm not paying for the degree of someone that went to an Ivy League school or something like this. And the same thing happened in the truckers' convoy. They tried to call people that own their own trucks petite bourgeoisie, or whatever it is that
that's the main argument I see that a lot of people are using. Oh, there's a lot of wealthy people that's in the protest. But I didn't want to interrupt you, Lucy, but finish that thought.
Well, I think it's just it's just telling that they're doing the same exact thing, except the propaganda works against the opposite party. So with student loan debt, they've kind of managed to turn it into a democratic issue, even though it's pretty split 50-50 or even 60-40 in terms of the number of like conservatives and liberals that have student loan debt. There's no like political party for student loan debt. A lot of people have it. And with the truckers convoy, they've managed to split it, but the opposite way. They've managed to, like, the right wing has kind of claimed resistance to these vaccine mandates, and they've tried to smear all of the truckers in the truckers convoy as right wingers, which is not true. Not all of the, maybe there are some right wingers in the truckers convoy, but they're not all right wingers, and they're trying to smear them as basically small business owners. They're saying like these truck drivers own their own trucks, therefore they're part of like the upper middle class. They're trying to smear these people as out of touch, like the bosses, whatever. But in reality, I mean, think about how ridiculous it is to call a truck owner petite bourgeoisie. Like, do you think every Uber driver is petite bourgeoisie just because they may own their cars? It's ridiculous. Like, so anytime like a worker basically owns his business or his means of production, they're quick to use that as a separating line and basically divide people that are slightly above. That's how they do it, and it's they're very successful at it.
I get a lot of trouble because I always try to give people benefit of the doubt. That's my biggest weakness. My biggest weakness is I tend to give people benefit of doubt until proven otherwise. So, I'm still trying to look at the details, and it seems to be very divisive. I remember that you mentioned to me before because people drawing their lines in the sand. But to me, the most important thing: do I agree with the goal? And I explained this concept many times because if I had to be principled, I don't agree with like many political factions, right? So if I was to hold this staunch, hard litmus test where I'm like, if you are a conservative, there's no way I could work with you. Now, if I am being intellectually consistent, if I am to have that litmus test, how do you justify working with Biden voters? And I'm legitimately asking that question to people. Like if you're organizing with DSA, if you're organizing with Justice Democrats, these people are Biden voters. And I think I'm consistent because I'm not willing to not work with someone because they voted for Joe Biden, which I think is deplorable. Like if you know what Biden's record is, like if you knew what he did beforehand, because we talking about student loans, I could talk about how he created the student loan debt crisis through his bankruptcy bill. He waged economic warfare not against just the working class, but specifically against Black America with his crime bill. He even said he is the grandfather of civil asset forfeiture. We all know civil asset forfeiture is responsible for stealing a large amount of wealth from Black Americans in the working class. So my question to people, in order to be intellectually consistent, if you are not for or if you hate anyone who support the convoy, you don't have to show support. But if you think that's like a line in the sand where it's like that's deplorable, why is it okay to support the Democrats when they complicit with war crimes, the crime against our communities? Like these are inconsistencies that I need people to explain to me, right? And if you can explain it to me, I'm like, okay, that's a good point. I just don't hear it. I just hear people say you should cancel people that are on the conservative right, but I'm like, you guys support the neoliberal right. Like, can we get consistent on this issue? So that's why I'm like, I want to slow this down. I don't think I'm super far on either side yet, because I want, especially my channel, to be the one that has smart dialogue. Instead, I already see people with the immediate cancel button on this issue. Oh my God, you support the Freedom Convoy? You're a fascist. Oh, my God, you don't support the Freedom Convoy? You're a fascist. So I want to at least have an honest dialogue so we can see. And I want to actually read some chats too. But Lucy, do you have anything you want to respond to? Any reactions?
No, I mean, I think that's true. Like, even if you do believe in the vaccines and you think they work, if you believe in strategically voting for Biden, for example, in spite of all the terrible things he's done over the years, why wouldn't you agree on strategically listening at least listening to the concerns of the people that are in the Freedom Convoy, even if you don't agree with them 100% on everything? You know, if you're willing to bend towards the Democrats, why not bend towards this group of truckers? And the reality is that they're smearing them as right wing, or they'll find one person with a Confederate flag or one person that, you know, has some kind of, among all of those people, it's a huge demonstration, right? So they basically go out of their way to find someone and they do this on purpose, to find someone with some kind of abhorrent view, and then they use it as proof to smear the entire group. And this strategy that the neoliberals use, like, they use it over and over again. There's nothing new to it. They love to smear by association. You know, like, oh, you were in this protest with this guy that has abhorrent views. I can't support this. And that's how they slow down these movements, you know, whether or not you agree with it 100%. Like, if so that many people are protesting and they're having a successful strike, because obviously, like, truckers, any transportation worker has the capacity to pull off a spectacular strike, basically. There have been like a number of strikes last year at the port, like the port of LA, the port of Montreal, and any one of those could have, like, any transportation worker, port worker, MTA worker, whatever. Those are the strikes that really have the power to stop everything. So, whether or not you agree with, like, every single trucker in that convoy, in that strike, there must be something to it, because not everyone has the power that they do to, like, make business stop. So I mean, that's all I have to say about it.
No, yeah, that's perfectly said. So, as someone who calls out the tactics of the ruling class to disrupt protest and challenge to the ruling class, I see when you see them demonize Black Lives Matter and leftist protests when they try and pretend it's extremely violent, even though when you look at larger overall analysis on the protests and studies, they were shown to be largely peaceful. I remember one study in particular that showed like 90%, 95% of Black Lives Matter protests had no altercation. It was 100% peaceful, but that's not the narrative that you hear from the media. So we know for a fact that they use the tactics of putting the worst people out there and using that as a way to demonize the movement and deflect from the ask of the movement. And that's something that I'm concerned with this, and that's why I'm willing to slow down. I want to see like what the end game for the truckers and the people who are protesting are, because I'm like, what are the asks though? I want to make sure that you guys are not like to protesting in order to like crush the workers. I seen the rumor going around that they may be asking for like deregulation. So it's like, what's your ask? And then we can if you're wrong in the ask, we can fight against that. But I agree with them on the mandate, so I support that ask. So this is the process of having a movement that is challenging the ruling elites. There's a coordinated attack on this protest, a coordinated attack on people who protest in general. So in these kind of situations, I think it's best. And I'm gonna play a clip from Richard Wolff where he kind of explains this. As a leftist, as a pro-worker, as a Marxist, use this situation to your advantage. I've been using the entire COVID culture war to my advantage because I see right wingers who say they are anti-mandate, and they say I'm anti-mandate because I don't support authoritarianism. And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna take advantage of your opening that you just gave me. If you don't support authoritarianism, if you're an American right winger, why do you support the drug war? Right? If you are one of the right wingers who feel like, oh my God, the fight against Joe Rogan by big tech is the battleground of free speech. I'm like, yeah, I hear you. I agree with you for the most part. But where are you on BDS? Where are you on the Black authors being censored? So me personally, and I want to get your thoughts before I play the Richard Wolff video. I think this is an opportunity for Marxists and workers. And even these people are not perfect. Take the win on issues you agree with, and then we got to be aggressive revolutionaries who are not afraid of confrontation, which I am not. I will call out your hypocrisies, even if we agree on issues, which I do all the time. But you have any initial thoughts, Lucy? And now I have a few more things I want to share.
I think that's a great point, like on what's the ask. And I think a lot of these protests, the reason they don't succeed is because the ask isn't big enough. So, for example, like the Black Lives Matters protest, as an example, and I, maybe people don't want to hear this from me. It's just my opinion. It's just another opinion in a sea of opinions. But the ask was to decrease these police budgets, and that would have been great, But what about the military, for example? Why didn't the ask include something related to the military? With the Freedom Convoy, the ask right now is to stop these authoritarian vaccine mandates. But it's basically a strike of truckers. Why isn't the ask something financial? Why isn't the ask related to relieving the truckers of some of their debt? So I think the ask has to be a little bit bigger. And I would be disappointed if the ask just stopped at stopping these authoritarian vaccine mandates, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I am skeptical, which is the reason why I'm not immediately jumping on this. And this is not me bashing it, but when you see the entire neocon right, Republican Party, and these people who have trickle down economic beliefs, when they are propping this up, I'm like, red flags. Understandably so, because these people oppose any policy, any movement that helps the workers. So if you guys support this movement, are they trying to hijack this and turn this to an anti-worker movement? And this is not me saying it is an anti-workers movement, but what if it does start out as a movement with great ideas and it goes the route of Tea Party, whether that started out good or not, where that was hijacked by the Koch brothers. I'm seeing a ton of big capitalist money. I see a lot of right wingers supporting it. So that kind of gives me, I'm like, okay, now the main thing that will affect whether I support you is your ask. And there are a lot of debate on because I see people are smearing them as anti-workers. I see people are saying, no, they actually are asking for pro-worker. This is a great opportunity to challenge the neoliberal consistent. I literally see people with so many different opinions. That's why I actually would love to talk to someone who actually on the other side of this issue as well. I would love to talk to a leftist who like, yo, fuck the Freedom Convoy. I would love to see where they're coming from, because we gotta make sure we have revolutionary discipline. We can't just immediately react to everything. We gotta understand what the consequences for workers and disenfranchised communities may be. I see people make the argument that the protests are hurting the workers, but it's like, is that true? Like, I would love to like host a debate over this, honestly. Like I can see the pros and the cons, but it just, to me, is what side is telling the truth, because I've seen how the establishment and the neoliberals smeared the Black Lives Matter movement. I see them using the same tactics. I want to see if I can find this video with Justin Trudeau where no matter how you feel about the worker convoy, I gave you guys my cons to it, right? what I think is a con. But I listened to Justin Trudeau and he was speaking about the convoy, and it was 100% bullshit. No matter where you fall on this issue, and I don't have the video saved, so give me some time. I may find it because I watched.
Actually what I was gonna tell you. I kind of grew a gut reaction because I noticed that the same people that have all of these shitty opinions about everything else started having these shitty opinions about the truckers convoy. So yeah, like maybe you don't agree with every single thing, about the truckers convoy, but I noticed people saying things like truckers are petite bourgeoisie, and I was at that point I was like, these people are full of it. They're obviously trying to smear it as something that's illegitimate. Now, whether or not you agree with the ask is something else, but people have a right to protest and express themselves. Like that's not really up to debate, in my opinion.
I said something months ago before the General Strike Summit. Maybe I said it during the General Strike Summit as well. When I said it, a lot of people agree with me. I said one of the ways that we can affect change and we can start a real general strike is if we get the truckers on our side. Most people agree with that.
Yes.
I remember, and I wasn't the only, to be clear, guys, I wasn't the only person who said that. Like, there were plenty of people who say, yo, we need to get the truckers on our side. If we get the truckers on our side, imagine if we actually had a class-conscious society that in response of us not getting healthcare, not us getting a UBI, not getting housing, them expanding the military budget in the middle of the pandemic, we, instead of like reactionary bullshit protests that the right usually host, we come together as a working class like, yo, we demand this shit. We demand healthcare because you guys gave the corporate class, the capitalist class, trillions of dollars in the middle of this pandemic. So you guys owe us some shit. You guys lost your mandate to roll over us, and we're gonna shut down this country. The most effective way to get that done, because people always say the general strike is so unrealistic. No, it's not. All you need to do is target key industry. If we had trucker on our,
the transportation workers, 100%.
Absolutely, Lucy. And we had those on our side, the tide would turn immediately. We just didn't. That's why I am asking the people who support the convoy, what is the ask? That is everything to me. Like, what I'm hosting
the ask for me would be the ask for me would be for the truckers. I support the Freedom Convoy. Do you support the student debt strike?
Oh,
that would be the ask for me.
I like that.
And the student debt strike, I think like we have to be a little bit realistic about what actually happened to the student, how that got rerouted, the energy, all of the energy from that got rerouted into the Bernie campaign, and then it just completely dissipated. It was a disaster. And I sent you that Substack that I wrote about how that compares to what happened in Chile.
Let's read that. Let's go over that, and then after that, we'll read some chats and some super chats. So let me pull that up. But go ahead. You can introduce the story. I'm gonna pull it up.
I just wanted to talk about it really generally because what happened in Chile is that people went out and protested for free college. And by the way, it's not perfect. It's still a mixed economy. It's still a country where there's like a combination of public and private colleges. But basically what happened is they protested for free college and they got free college. That's it. So all of this energy that all of these students basically, because the Bernie campaign was basically powered by a lot of students. It wasn't just students, but it was a lot of students. Got rerouted, all of that energy got rerouted into electoralism. And then those people didn't even get a fraction of what they asked for. So it ended up being completely ridiculous. The Democrats are never going to forgive student debt. It's very clear right now that it's a completely neoliberal party. And it's just that, it's not happening. So all of those people that went to events, like, why can't we have an event for student debt, debt strike? Yeah. And the Debt Collective actually canceled the event in January because there was like an extension of the lockdown or some kind of bullshit like that. I don't think that was worth it. I think we should have an event, a large event. Just like, when they were doing the Bernie campaign, they had events all over the country. There was an event every single day. Why not have an event every single day for student loan strike? Why not have an event every single day for the Freedom Convoy? Why not have an event every single day to decrease the police budget. I mean, they did that already. But we can have events every day on any number of issues, and it doesn't have to be, like when all of the energy is like poured into a single candidate, and then that energy that the candidate doesn't make it, it's just like all of that time and energy completely wasted. I just feel like it's a real tragedy that all of that was wasted, and we haven't gotten anywhere. Whereas compared to a country like Chile that had the same kinds of neoliberal policies, but people are aware that they can't waste their energy on one candidate, and they didn't fall for it, for the idea basically that you're gonna vote for a perfect person that will do it for you. Like, they understand that this is something that you have to win on the ground. That's it. That's my opinion, but
yeah, your point, you're on point, because that is my critique of the progressive, the squad, AOC, and Bernie. People wonder why I always target them, because they are failures as leftist leaders who kill revolutionary thought and discipline. Like, AOC has how many followers? 12.7 million. Like, we're sharing, like, Rome is building thrift stores, community gardens. He is feeding people throughout the country, and we are poor. We are poor Black people. Like, Compton just started his mutual aid network as well, and we are like barely making it by. We're a channel with less than 15,000 subscribers, right? Like, you got 12 millions of followers. Like, Bernie has an email list that politics have never seen. Like, have there ever been anyone with an email list like Bernie Sanders? What are you guys doing with that power? Oh, they got no power. They can't do anything. Are you crazy? Politics is about movement building. This is about the resources that you spend in politics is the resources of people. If you can generate crowds like Bernie did, why are you allowing that movement and energy to die out? Like, we got the kids are still in cages. You got Biden funding ICE more. And I also want to get your reaction to this, because I can list crimes all of them all day. I saw someone in the chat mention this. Be patient, guys. I'm gonna get to the chat here very soon. But now, no 2-year free community college. So I don't know how many times do they continue to let you guys down. You guys continue to funnel people into this party instead of being revolutionary and demanding, like, shit. I'll be happy if you guys are like leading impeachment charges over his war crimes, over his economic crimes of starving the Afghanistan people, of his war crimes in Yemen. Like, imagine, like, would I have anything negative to say about Bernie or the squad if they was holding rallies, like highlighting like the crimes of the Biden administration? Imagine if they was holding rallies and they was like, "Yo, Biden promised us." Even if you disagree with them, like endorsing Biden, but if they was like, "Biden promised us we did get a public option. Biden promised he's gonna cancel student loan debt. Biden said he's gonna end the kids in cages." And even though they couldn't get him to stop doing that, imagine they was holding rallies to drive down his public support. Imagine, like, we the drafted articles of impeachment and we the whole rally because of you holding genocide. If they was doing that, would I honestly have a critique of them? Like, what? I'll be like, hell yeah, this is great. This is great. But they're not doing it. And that's it's a shame. It's a shame they're not. Any thoughts, Lucy? And we get to some comments as well here.
Yeah. So, by the way, like, I just want to say that I understand that people don't, like, if they don't consider student loan cancellation their number one issue. There's a lot of other things that people have a right to be concerned about. Vaccine mandates might be one of them, or not having health care, or any other number of things. Like, I feel like we should talk more about those things that you just talked about, like the fact that we're currently sanctioning Afghanistan, and the fact that they're now in a worse place economically than when we were invading them. So that's something that's happening. They've frozen the central bank, the funds of the central bank, which is the same thing that they did to Venezuela. It's like, extremely evil thing to do. But they technically pulled their troops out, so they're pretending that they're not still destroying this country. So all of those things are things that we have to talk more about. The reason that I think student loan debt is really important is because I do think just like what happened in Chile, because they had a very similar system to the one we have here. They had basically like neoliberalism on steroids, which is very similar to the economy, like the economic system that we have here. We're always subjected to all kinds of debt, student debt, mortgage debt. Like everyone in America is in debt. This country runs on debt. So student loan debt is like one of the many kinds of debt that people could come together on, because it affects 46 million people. It affects people of different ages, races, classes, etc. So it's actually an extremely unifying issue. Student debt, like what people don't realize is that bankruptcy is a constitutional right. So you have the right to bankruptcy protections, just like you have the right to bodily autonomy, or just like you technically have the right to own a gun. Bankruptcy protections, like the founders of this country called for bankruptcy protections before even calling for the right to have an army. It was an extremely important issue that was completely tied to our economic independence from England. So it's a very nationalistic issue, actually, that could bring us together as Americans. And what you were saying about the fact that people in this generation can't spend enough money, and that's what is kind of slowing down the economy, because all of your professionals, etc., they can't start their businesses, they can't have a family because they're tied down with student debt. It also ties into all kinds of other issues. Like imagine, I'm just thinking about, for example, the fact that there's so much anti-immigration sentiment right now in this country. Well, why is that? Maybe it's the fact that a generation ago, people had good jobs, they had extra money, and they had money to throw at people that were coming to clean their house or garden their yard or whatever. Now, money is tight, and we don't want to pay people to have those jobs. We don't want to pay for an assistant. We need to keep, whenever you're in a situation where you're under economic duress, your empathy for other people is naturally going to decrease. Think about the fact that professionals come here from other countries, and their countries, the country that they're from, gives them free college, and they're competing with us on the labor market. So I go to work for with people, for example, that they got free college in India, they got free college in Chile, they got free college in Mexico.
Yes.
And and they're competing for us in wages. We have to earn more. We have to out earn them, basically, in the same kinds of jobs, in order to just pay back our basic expenses. It's extremely harmful for us as Americans to keep putting up with this debt burden. And it does decrease our competitiveness on the global market. So, I'm not anti-immigration. I'm not saying that people with college degrees from India or Mexico shouldn't come here. I do think that there is a problem. And when people are a little bit anti-immigration, some of those people, yes, maybe they have like racist leanings or whatever, but sometimes these things also, they have a logical, there's a logical reason for why people are harboring these kinds of anti-immigration sentiments. And you see this with people, like companies moving and like outsourcing and going to other countries and screwing their American workforce. You can understand, it's not a justification for this kind of anti-immigration sentiment, but you can understand how it happens. That's all I'm saying. So
yeah, that's well said. And this is, I can definitely see you like being a leader on this issue, especially a student loan, because it's a big problem. It's a big issue that we got to tackle, especially because I always like to explain my mindset, especially as like as a Marxist. Like, this is class war. I want people to start waging class war as aggressively as our ruling class has been waging class war against us. And they know this is, and like you said, this is a unifying issue. This is an issue that will unify people. And this is why the establishment does everything they can to avoid these topics. The Democrats technically have all these winning issues that they claim they support, but not only do they run away from those issues, they oppose those issues actively. Like, Biden is purposely trying to make it hard to pay back his student loan debt. He did his entire career. Like, the Democratic Party would dominate every election, and it wouldn't be close if they was pro marijuana. but Joe Biden refused to follow his basic campaign promise of decriminalizing marijuana. So they purposely choose losing culture war issues. They hijack and bastardize wokeism and identity politics, which actually hurts us because there is a valid positive like I want you guys to understand woke came from the black community. So I'm actually really frustrated because being woke, like if you look at the old definition, it's literally being aware of your surroundings, being aware of your situations. How is that a bad thing? It became a bad thing because the Democrats and neoliberal shit libs like Joe Biden and Amy Klobuchar, these people who are as racist as Republicans, they started pretending, oh, I'm gonna put a rainbow flag on my truck, even though I support bombing countries and genocide. So it's a joke. They turned it to a joke, even though it's something that is supposed to be positive that came out of the black community. Being woke is supposed to be a positive thing that came out of rap and early hip hop. Being woke is being intelligent. You guys all say, Nick, oh my God, SocialistMMA, you so well read. I'm woke. Like that's supposed to be a good thing, but they hijacked it. And that's what the Democratic Party do. The neoliberal part and the neoliberals, they hijack identity politics, which had a real point. Like identity politics is us connecting our struggles together. As a black man, how did my struggle connect with you as a Muslim? If you're a poor working white class person, how do our struggles connect with each other? You see how identity politics is supposed to be a unifier. It's supposed to be a great thing. This is what our black Marxist leaders wrote about. This is what Fred Hampton wrote about. How we can unify our problems together. This is identity politics that most people don't even know. Most people are like identity politics sucks. Yes, the neoliberal version does because they hijacked it and they turned it into this divisive thing that cost them public support because they are so bad and so disingenuous when they talk about it. So I'm gonna share this because this also highlights what you was talking about earlier. Check this out. Most Americans, this came out 2 weeks ago. Most Americans want Biden to prioritize student loan debt forgiveness. So Biden is deeply underwater. What is something that could help your administration out when you have historically unpopular numbers? Well, it's almost like if you can give people health care and forgive student loan debt and legalize marijuana, Biden would be probably the most popular president in modern American history if he did those three things, even though he does not deserve it because of his war crimes. But if Joe Biden, and these are things that he can do, that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema has nothing, there's nothing they can do to stop him. Like if he actually wanted to do this, if he wanted to decriminalize marijuana, if he wanted to give people health care in the middle of a pandemic, he can. Because it's a public emergency. He can expand Medicaid to everyone, right? But he does not do it. It has nothing to do with Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema. Stop falling for the rotating villain. There's nothing that they are doing that is stopping Biden from doing these things. And there's nothing that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema is doing. What do Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema have to do with the fact that Joe Biden is funding ICE more? What do they have to do with the fact that he's sending weapons and giving weapons to Saudi Arabia while they're bombing Yemenis children and starving them? Israel is bombing Syria right now. He's funding giving them weapons. What do Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema have to do with these crimes of the executive branch that he's complicit with? All right, let's get to some chats. I actually do have a good theory on this. I guess we can get a little bit on the main topic. Nick, why? I can only imagine how much discussion because this is a very polarizing issue. Let me show you guys this. I just peeked this earlier today. Well, I answer this question first because this is extremely polarizing. Jesus. So, Nick, why and how have truckers galvanized thousands and leftists in the USA cannot even get a fraction to join crowds for Medicare for all? It's a very simple concept that I've explained many times. The establishment props up right-wing protests and suppress left-wing protests. So that's why I'm asking you guys, what is the ask of this movement? Because when I see like Sean Hannity, when I see the Fox News neocon right support this, I'm like, whoa, you guys are not making them uncomfortable. What does that mean? So what they do, I remember whenever there's these like right-wing protests, it'd be like small crowds. Like they used to have Stop the Steal protest. Stop the Steal was extremely fringe. Like, if you ever, and I covered this on my show, they had a protest that they were covering on CNN. Stop the Steal protest. I looked at the crowd, there's like 20 people there. There's like 20 people. They were like, oh my God, Stop the Steal protest in Florida. 25 people there. But it gets CNN airtime. Did the protest of the indigenous people on Indigenous Peoples Day that the Capitol Police, they busted a lot of indigenous people head, they tear gassed them on Columbus Day. That was the colonizers call it. Because they were protesting Line 3. Did that get covered by the media? Or do you see the right-wing culture warriors showing support and solidarity to that movement that was brutalized by the government? No, because the left-wing protests are suppressed. Right-wing movements are amplified by the capitalists, because also it helps divide the workers. Because there is a giant divisive issue on this. For whatever reason, we're going to analyze why that is. I know I talked for a long time, Lucy. I want to get your reaction to anything. Do you have anything you want to add? And I'm going to read a few comments as well.
You can maybe read a comment. Maybe it'll trigger something.
Yeah. I know I went for a very, very long time, but there was a lot to break down what you were saying. Thank you for Donnell. I'm in Vancouver. I've seen Convoy up close, and it's 10% day truckers, 90% SUV, and pickups from the burbs. They are actively avoiding damage flow of capital. Happy to describe murder. I would love to hear both sides of this issue, because I've seen people act extremely like emotionally what word I'm looking for, like, for lack of a better term, childlike, emotionally childlike. Like, what I don't like, and people who watch this show and people who follow my work, I don't like fucking just overreactions. I want to analyze this issue. Like, that's why I named the video, should leftists support this convoy? Like, I'm asking, like, I'm legitimately interested in hearing all points of view, because I am seeing, I wish I could find the video. Maybe I should take time to find it. But when I hear Justin Trudeau comment about this strike, it's not what Donnell is saying. Like, he is making up bullshit. Like, I when I see that, I am repulsed by the neoliberal response to this. And I have to examine why that is, because I see similarities when they try and discredit movements. But when you hear stuff like this, if this is true, this convoy is anti-worker. They call for deregulation. And they actually like a petite bourgeoisie. Once again, I don't know if it's true, but if it is true, that's something that, even if you agree with these people on this issue, you can show solidarity on that issue, but you gotta hold them account. Like, even if you support this, you got to hold these motherfuckers account. You can't let this movement be hijacked by the neocons. There may be pro-worker people in this shit, but then what if, like, I seen Don Jr. tweet in support of this. Do you guys really want Don Jr. to hijack this? I don't know. You have any thoughts, Lucy?
I saw the Communist Party of Canada release a very strange statement saying that it was the entire truckers convoy was led by fascists.
Is that true? Is that true? Is it led by fascists?
I think the thing about it for me,
they say that about everyone they don't
is that they make these accusations. They make these accusations like this is led by fascists or Nazis, and then there's no explanation afterwards. There's no explanation of what is the fascist organization that you claim is funding this. GoFundMe shut them down. Apparently they almost stole $10 million from the protesters or something. That doesn't make sense. And they make these accusations without anything to back it up. If they said that this was fascist led and they gave me some kind of proof, a video, they made these allegations that it was a violent protest. Well, where are the videos? We live in the age of the camera phone. If there's no videos of this alleged violence, then I don't believe you. Like, show me the video.
It's literally that simple to me. I need evidence. I don't believe anything coming out of you neoliberal fucks in the government. To be clear, like, if there's fascists, that's why I'm asking you guys, is that true? Like, I want to see the evidence. I'm not gonna believe it.
Yeah, let's see it.
Anderson Cooper. If Anderson Cooper and what's her name? Is he still on? I don't think he's still on. Is he still on? If Joanne Reed, for example, if Joanne Reed does a segment on MSNBC that's like, yo, the trucker convoy or any protest is racist, I'm like, I don't believe you. I need some other evidence. And thus far I've seen a lot of it come from the neoliberals, but that doesn't mean there's not legitimate leftist concern. That's what I wanted to highlight, like the real, like people I believe are good faith leftists who have concerns about this. That's why I'm more interested. I don't want to hear none of the bullshit that I hear from the neoliberals. Like I see the neoliberals like this is a racist movement. Like you're a racist movement. You the Democrats are. Do you guys know this? The Democrats are running on funding the police more as their main talking point heading into 2022. So the Democrats claim they believe in critical race theory. We are the party that supports critical race theory. Critical race theory is an analysis of structures that enable systemic racism. We all know that is what our law enforcement and criminal justice system is. It siphons wealth from workers, so it's anti-workers, anti-class, and then they steal wealth from us. We imprison 1/4 of the world's prison population, right? So you are the racist movement, right? So I don't care about Democrats concerned about the Freedom Convoy. You don't have any right to be, as far as I'm concerned. If you vote for Joe Biden, you have no right to criticize any movement. I know I'm an asshole, but if you check the goddamn box for Jim Crow Joe after everything he did, how can you say this fucking movement is racist? You're racist. Fuck. Sorry, go. But I guess I should get in some more chats. Feel free to interrupt me anytime. Thank you for the $20 debate me channel. I feel the same way about Tucker Carlson. A very smart. I already gave my thought about Tucker Carlson. I am not impressed. I watched a segment he did last night. I should pull it up for fun. Horrible. It's horrible. I don't understand anyone who thinks this dude is on our side. Like he is so horrible. Like he is so intellectually dishonest. He even when he says shit I agree with, his conclusion is completely off. He would say shit I agree with. He was like, this is why we should support the Republicans. What? But I should show you. I really should go show you guys this segment I saw yesterday.
He always has that look, like with the eyebrows.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a little douchey, and he's always like he's joining his eyebrows, and he has that constipated look. That's what always gets me about Tucker Carlson. You know, it's like I don't know. I kind of went off topic there.
The problem with Tucker Carlson is that he used. Maybe I should finish the super chat because I'm going on before I even read it. He said I feel the same way about Tucker Carlson, a very smart crony capitalist. So why does he keep having certain lefties on? If he wants them on, then being on is serving crony capitalists' objective. So I actually don't agree with that part. See, I'm very critical of Tucker Carlson, but when you see Aaron Mate go on Tucker Carlson and debunk Russiagate, that is 100% a good thing. Like if you have a leftist that go on Tucker Carlson show and make really great arguments, like I have seen Jimmy Dore, he went on there and made an argument for Julian Assange. He made an argument for ending the war. I am for that. I am just not impressed by Tucker Carlson because he and I can show you the segment to explain what he does. Like he pretended to be pro working class, but then he constantly push culture war stupid ass bullshit that divides the workers. Like I remember he melted down over like the M&Ms. Like they had like a very, very, very small detail change, and he was like, "Oh my god, the woke mob! Oh my god!" And I'm like, "Bro, this is stupid shit that will just divide the workers." And he purposely does this shit. He purposely promotes shit that's divisive. Like he promotes bullshit over fear mongering over immigration. And if you're a right winger, you're not gonna like. I unapologetically make the position that it's not immigrants that are causing us our wages to decrease. And Tucker Carlson and right wingers who are like, oh my God, it's immigration that's hurting the workers. I disagree. So you telling me the capitalist class is making trillions of dollars in profit? Pause. Trillions of dollars of profit. But you blaming the immigrant for the reason why the capitalist class choose not to pay the worker? That doesn't make sense. Like they can. Jeff Bezos could pay every single Amazon worker $100,000 per year, and he would still not lose one single goddamn. He would still be a millionaire. So how is that the immigrants' fault?
Well, I think we have to be a little bit smarter about, and I like how you have this like international coalition section. You know, I don't know what you call it. Is it on Saturdays?
Coalition.
Yeah. But I think we also have to be a little bit maybe more proactive about uniting people on things like debt. But you know, like, okay, let me start again. Basically the way our economy works, like, you know, vis-a-vis the developing world, is that we suppress their currency, you know, like of countries in Latin America, Africa, you know, other parts of the other developing countries, and they're supposed to provide us with cheap primary goods, you know, and we're supposed to sell them expensive electronics, you know, other kinds of things that you know, and that's how they're, you know, they're basically like kept away from a higher level of development, because we have this screwed up relationship. But one of the ways that our strong currency, our dollar currency, hurts us is that we have to pay, for example, enormous amounts of money to buy a house, to go to college, to get pharmaceutical drugs that are actually cheap in other countries or fairly accessible. And why is that? It's because of the value of the dollar. It helps us in some ways. Maybe our food is cheaper than in other countries. We have like easier access to electronics, whatever. But it's also hurting us. And one of the ways that I feel like we could work with people in other countries is what are the exchanges that we're creating? Because we can help Americans, for example, get a college education for cheap in another country. You know, like I brought on this friend of mine. Her name is Samira Adri. She went to medical school in Cuba. They have a program where they recruit poor Americans, like people from poor backgrounds, and they train them to be doctors in Cuba. They train them for free. So that's like one way that we can help Americans, you know, benefit from cheaper currency in the same way that immigrants benefit sometimes from a cheaper currency. For example, if someone comes here from a developing country, they can afford to buy a house in their country for cheap. So are we helping like Americans maybe like culturally adjust to another country so that they can maybe like retire in another country for cheap? Are we like making these connections with international you know, international leftists, not just to talk about things, but to actually help people come here so that they can get a good job, but also help Americans go abroad so that they can get a cheap education? Like those are the kinds of things that I feel like we could do financially. We could financially help a lot of people if they just knew about all of the options that exist.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and that's exactly the kind of mindset I believe the left should have. Like that's why I host those international solidarity panels, and we want to have our summit where we invite a ton of internationalists. Where we have the International Solidarity Summit. I think we aiming for April. We was aiming for March, but my grandma died, so I could not work on anything like that for a while. So that actually got put back because of that. So let me get some more super chats. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I appreciate it. Thank you, David, for the super sticker. There's another comment by Desert. You got it, Nick. The media suppresses leftist protests. When they do recognize it, they call it a riot. I have my ear on the ground. I hear about protests all the time that never ever get covered. Whenever there's a right wing culture warrior reactionary protest, it's immediately amplified on the news. Stop the still protests in Missouri. Like I used to hear it all the time. Stop the still protests over here. Anti-mask protests over here. Like they always amplify. Like,
well, remember there was an actual truckers protest in Colorado not that long ago over that guy that got this like maximum sentence.
Yeah.
Except it was like mostly Latino truckers. They barely covered it. They only covered it on like independent media. And you know, they chose to not cover it. Like they could have covered that truckers protest if they wanted to, but it kind of went against what they want to do is they want to like exploit this rural urban divide. They want to paint out all of these like truckers that I don't know if they're from rural areas or not as you know, like hopelessly conservative and you know, people that have the wrong morals or whatever, and then they want to dismiss everything they say. And then when it's like a protest of Latino truckers, it doesn't really help the Democratic narrative as much to cover it, so they don't cover it.
Yeah. And you mentioned the taxi strike, And I remember I heard that was one of the protests I heard about, but it's not a protest I'm too knowledgeable about. But here's the protest you talk about that you mentioned earlier. Was this amplified the same way that the trucker convoy was? Whether you support it or not, like you can say objectively it's not. Like no matter if you support the protest or not. And I explained on my other live stream how Black Lives Matter sold us out to the Democratic Party. There are millions unaccounted for, meeting the leadership. They took the money and ran. While the real activists, the real abolitionists in Ferguson, who were protesting the corrupt police state in Missouri that we live in, but it was especially bad in St. Louis because of William Lancey Clay. You know, the person that Cori Bush defeated? Because Cori Bush was an activist. Now she hates activists. Like she don't want to be seen with them now. Like she don't like activists will ask her questions. She's like, oh, no, shoot, go away. But she started out as an activist, right? And I'm in Missouri, so I can tell you the story. Like I shared this multiple times. There are many Ferguson protests who are dead. There are many protesters who are dead because they was really calling for revolution. They was calling for completely getting rid of the corrupt police state and the complete police in St. Louis. And William Lancey Clay, he was complicit with he took a lot of bribes from the police, and he always apologized for police or their police killings. He was so disliked, he allowed Cori Bush to win. That's how she won. So now you gotta know why I'm really frustrated when now you have to squad fund the police more. But that's a whole nother story. But the Black Lives Matter movement became gentle and became approved by the neoliberal Democratic Party. You have Biden bros that got Black Lives Matter in their profile, and they support the police state. How you guys allow them to be that comfortable? You have Black Lives Matter that was celebrating when Jim Crow Joe won the election. You guys think it's this is when they was dead to me.
I remember people celebrating when Biden won the election. Actually, in my area, not in my area, but in like
check out this embarrassing shit. And this is why Black Lives Matter they started to become amplified because it was a movement with no teeth. So I was highlighting this, and I covered this on my show at the time. You had Joe Biden during a national debate that was broadcast to millions of people that straight up said, he said, do you support Black Lives Matter? Do you support the George Floyd protest? He said, no, I support the police. That was his response. Lucy, can you imagine the reaction from Black Lives Matter protesters if any Republican, like if Trump was asked, do you support the protest? No, I support the cops. See, the Republicans support white supremacy. Joe Biden literally said that during a debate, and there was crickets. It was not only was there crickets, Black Lives Matter was cheerleading for him after the debate and said he did great. Joe Biden was like, I support funding the police more than Trump does, which he has done. That is one of the only campaign promises he has kept. But despite all this shit that he said before the election, Black Lives Matter global network statement about Biden-Harris victory. Once again, Black people, especially Black women, have saved the United States. Whether in Milwaukee, Detroit, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Black voters showed up in huge numbers to turn this country around and remove the racists in the White House.
You know, I actually
this is when they was dead to me. This is when Luke, I'll let you speak, but this is when they died to me, guys. This is the exact moment. But go ahead, Lucy.
I'm curious what you think about this because first of all, like what you're saying about movements having an ask, I'm just comparing it to Chile again because they had that recent third-party victory, which is like we need some kind of third-party victory in this country, but that's just my opinion. It was kind of like a combination of the student debt movement that helped propel that, but also the kind of anti-police brutality movement there. But the difference in the anti-police brutality movement there is that there's an understanding that basically anyone can suffer police brutality. Now, I'm not saying that Black people, that, they're obviously the worst affected by this. but they're not the only ones affected by this. Like, there's monumental evidence that cops don't give a shit. Like, if they do civil
That's why I
asset
don't understand.
forfeiture. There were pictures of the cops, like beating up white people during those protests. It doesn't. If you have some kind of anti-authoritarian tendency, if you are going to a protest, you are subjecting yourself to the possibility that you're going to suffer some kind of police brutality. Maybe not as badly as if you are Black or Native American, but it can still happen to you. You're not safe. And I feel like at some point, the Black Lives Matter movement, they made it into this kind of like, you have to listen to us, to Black people, because we're the ones that have the experience and knowledge about this, and shut up kind of thing. Like, it became very partisan.
And I think that's on purpose too. Like I truly do believe like these Democrats, they infiltrate movement and they kill them on purpose. And I think that's an example of what of them doing that. I still remember when right-wing culture warriors, they was attacking Black Lives Matter. They were like, this is a Marxist movement. And then the liberals in the Black Lives Matter were like, no, we're not. What? Yes, you should. Fred Hampton was a Marxist. Like, we are socialists. Our people come from socialists. That's our revolutionary background. And they was running away from the class struggle. Like the people on top of the Black Lives Matter, they was purposely running away from class struggle, and they was trying to make it all about identity politics.
It's all about. I'm not going to talk about this in depth or anything, but just to give you an example, like my father was a police brutality victim, and look at how white I am. So yeah. It doesn't mean that. Obviously, it affects white people less, but you're not safe.
I want to speak on the point that you made, because it's important. This is why I'm confused when I see poor working class white people support the police state. Like, I bring up numbers like how Black people are most likely to be affected by civil asset forfeiture. There's no doubt that the prison industrial complex and the police state affects us the most, and then indigenous people is like a close second as well. A lot of people don't talk about that. Like, they are right up there with like homicide rates and civil asset forfeiture rates as Black Americans. And now I want you guys to understand, I bring up the Black statistics all the time because I am trying to galvanize my people. Like, there are so many, like maybe 30-40% of us that are voting for the Democrats because they think the Democrats are good. Jim Crow Joe support the police state. So when I say, the police state is destroying Black lives, I'm using that to galvanize my people, right? But if you're a white working class person, the police state is and it 100% is. Don't get it twisted. The police state is hurting everybody, right? If you're poor working class, that is. So why there's not critical solidarity on this issue? Like, when people look at defund the police, they say, "Oh, defund the police is a Black issue." I present that way because it helped me win over Black people, because it helps them connect and understand why it affects their life. But it's 100% a class issue. So I explained this before. If you support giant police budgets, if you don't support defund the police, you're not class conscious. You're not. But anyway, we really should get to some comments because we're gonna wrap up here very soon. All right. I want to make sure I know Azura keeps saying I missed his super chat, but I literally went through the whole log and I do not see it, Azura. I see you like that a few times. You're like, Nick, my super chat. I do not see it. Here's a $5 for Metal King. The trucker convoy is likely not right wing in of itself, but the establishment seeks to drive it in that direction. And I have to put back on this because this is a common neoliberal tactic. Anyone I disagree with is right wing. Joe Rogan is a right winger. They try to say Russell Brand is a right winger now. I wonder if I can find this list quickly. I want to show you guys how unserious these people are. I'm pretty sure it won't take too long to find. Because they're these Democrats here. Here it is. I know it won't take that long. This is a good case study. Check this out, Lucy. Look at this. Because the people who are pushing to get Joe Rogan censored, and the people who try to attack anyone who go against Democratic Party consensus as right wing. Look at this list. This is a giant. Well, I think he is. I know this tweet went pretty. Like, a lot of people was upset to say the least, because. Well, let's read this tweet. Joe Rogan's 2021 episode, Alex Jones Returns, was watched over 30 million times and was crucial in helping Jones keep his slander factory business going. Even Fox News won't platform Alex Jones. That tells you a lot about how extreme / naive Rogan is. Joe Rogan fans often point to his fig leaf endorsement of Bernie Sanders as proof that Rogan isn't right-wing. But right-wingers overwhelmingly are the favorites, as you can see from his guest list. Now, this brings me back to my point. Look at who the liberals consider to be right-wing and left-wing. This is insane. And there was a lot of people that was like, this guy was getting attacked. I can't zoom it in more. But obviously, look, they put Russell Brand as a right-winger. Russell Brand. So they have no concept of economics, where you stand on imperialism. And check this out. Look who they consider to be a lefty. Cenk Uygur, the union buster. Cenk Uygur is literally a self-admitted capitalist imperialist. And you see how they put him as a lefty? Russell Brand's a right-winger. I don't go through this whole list, but I'm pretty sure there's some other questionable people here. But the point is, they define people, whether they are left and right-wing, on whether they disagree. Damn, there's so many bad people here. Holy shit. There's so many bad people on this list. But my point is, and that what the comment was saying here, it's deeply unserious people that left-wing is a moral virtue. So if you're morally virtuous, you are left-wing. If you're bad, you're a right-wing. That's how people define the Overton window. Sam Cedar thinks he's on the left, despite the fact that Sam Cedar said he does not care about the State Department getting more funding. If you do not care about our giant military and prison industrial complex, you cannot call yourself a left-winger. That is the position of the neoliberals and neocons who believe in a giant national security state. That is not, by any definition, a left-wing position. But Sam Cedar would never consider that because he considered being a left-winger a moral virtue. So that's why he called Jimmy Dore a right-winger, because Jimmy Dore is not morally virtuous. You guys see what I'm saying? That's how they define the Overton window. You have any thoughts, Lucy? I know we about to wrap up here soon.
I just want to say, I agree with that list was ridiculous too, because they left out a lot of left-wingers that Joe Rogan actually interviewed.
Yeah, they did leave out. Yeah, there's a whole. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but just in general, like, since we're talking about all of these movements, I think it would be great if the ask was really big. Like, if the ask was like, let's change the Constitution to something that we all agree with.
I'm telling you guys, the ask is going to be the biggest thing on whether I support the trucker convoy. And I've been looking. I haven't seen a lot of specifics yet. That is good. I see people that are like really invested in this. I really hope Nick support the truckers. I really hope Nick doesn't support the truckers. I'm telling you, if you support those truckers and they come out with some bullshit capitalist ask, I am not going to support it. I'm going to be straight up. But I don't know yet. We see. But sorry, Lucy, I'll cut you off. I want you to continue.
Yeah, no, I think the ask should be really big. And because I feel like, when you're protesting, you're putting yourself out there. You're putting yourself at risk of it's a physical risk at the end of the day. So you shouldn't waste it by some cheap ask, because it's a lot of effort. And it's, protests, it's very difficult to galvanize protests. Like the protests that happened everywhere in the country last year, that's not going to happen again. Maybe it'll happen in a few years, but it's not something that, you can't let that window pass by without having some kind of really huge ask. And the thing that is really important too is that it should be an ask that kind of unites everyone and not just the group of people. Obviously this is, I'm not expecting truckers to kind of advocate for everyone in Canada. It's normal for people that are protesting something to just be specific about what they're protesting. But I feel like it's kind of incumbent on the rest of us to be like, okay, there's already these protests happening. What else can we ask for? Because there's a lot of stuff that we need and we need it now.
Yeah, well said. And I think we got to all the super chats. I appreciate everyone for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoy the stream. If you guys want to continue to support the network, support the Patreon. I got in the description, Revolutionary Blackout. And we got to go hitting 15,000 subscribers before April. But before we sign off, I do want to give Lucy the last thoughts on anything we talk about. Like, this is your last chance to give your last word in, and also promote anything that you want to promote as well. Lucy has a channel, Blue Moon Red Wine, on YouTube. I linked it in the description to find more content from her. But anything else you want to add, Lucy? It was a great conversation.
Well, I want to answer Ashura's question on Haiti.
Yeah, no
Maybe
rush, no rush.
you know more about Haiti than I do. I do consider neoliberal right wing, so that's probably why I called it right wing. But I understand that not everyone has my way of seeing things. But just in general, I'm actually kind of laying low a little bit because I feel like there's channels like yours and other channels that I like to support as an audience member. I'm not sure if I'm doing this
content though. Yeah, good content. I'll watch it. I'll watch a bit of your channel. It's really good stuff.
Eventually, I would like to do a little bit more mutual aid in my area. I live in the Bronx, and I work in AOC's district, which is a district that a lot of people, have a lot of opinions about ever since AOC became a famous politician. But like it is a kind of an area that needs a lot of help, and I feel like I wanted to see if I could participate in a little bit more mutual aid and use my channel for that, because I love these political channels, but I also have a job and I don't have the time to do the kind of in-depth political research that people want to educate themselves on these different topics.
If you we stream every day because we're a network. Like if it was just us, there's no way that we would be able to have content like this. So even if you have videos once or twice a month, I think that's good. Like the student loan debt summit, having something like that maybe once a month, that's good. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah,
I just think it's good. I think more content is better, and that's what we want to do at Revolutionary Blackouts, help other channels grow, because we was helped by many people like Lee Camp, Jimmy Dore, Combo Counts, many other channels helped us out. So we try to help. I want to help out as many people as we can as well. That's why we have you, the Bank Sisters, and I want to feature a lot more anti-establishment voices. I also had Caleb Malpin. He's a bigger channel, but you guys know what I'm saying. I want to give as many independent voices a chance to speak as possible, right? So that's what we're gonna do on the channel. Help us get to 15K. Imagine the work that we can do with 100,000. Imagine a General Strike Summit with the resources of a channel with 100,000 subscribers. Imagine Tour for the Poor, and we have big ambitions, and we're not hiding it, because we really, if we're frustrated with the left, which we are, and we criticize the boutique left all the time. If we're gonna criticize the boutique left, it'll be stupid of us to do that, or at least maybe childish of us to do that, if we're not at least trying to step up and show people how it's done. So we're trying the best we can. So are we listening to feedback and all that stuff? But anyway, thank you.
I hope you guys grow, because I really like the General Strike Summit, and I feel like it should keep getting aired, because there's a lot of people that this is the first time they've seen your channel. So definitely, if you can share episodes of the General Strike Summit.
We need clips more of those. It was so many hours. We have few was you on the General Strike Summit? We had so many guests. Was you on there?
No, I wasn't on there.
We gotta have you on the next one. We gotta have you on the next one. God damn. But there's so many. We still got a few more clips we gotta share on that one. But yeah, we definitely. Oh yeah, we're gonna do General Strike Summit Part 2. We wanted to do that after we do the International Solidarity Summit. Sabby has a woman panel summit. I know she planning here soon. CJ's having a third party summit. So we want to we want to build bridges on people who are really anti-establishment, anti-capitalist minded. So there's some people who don't agree with our guests. People get mad when we have some people on, but I'm like, man, shut up. We're just talking, bro. We're just talking. But anyway, thank you, Lucy, for coming on. Any last words? Any last chance? Any last thing you want to say?
No, I mean, I would like to start some kind of mutual aid in my area. But that's pretty much it. I really want to promote already like yours that are already kind of growing already and have the potential to be bigger.
Yeah, there was a good conversation, so you're definitely welcome anytime. We want to continue to grow this network. So this definitely won't be the last you see of Lucy. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys support us on Patreon. I have a link in the description if you guys enjoyed. And share with a friend. Help us hit the goal that we have. Our 1 year anniversary is on April. We launched April 1st last year.
Oh.
So our goal is to hit 15,000 before our 1 year anniversary. So let's do it. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Have a great night.